Hello, my name is Peter Burke. I'm acting chair of the UK Metric Association. We're a well-established body whose main objective is to ensure that common sense prevails in weights and measures. And we're very proud to have as our patrons, Gavin Esler and Jim Al-Khalili. So the reason I'm talking to you today is because the government is rumoured to be planning changing regulations about metrication and opening up the door to greater use of imperial measures. Something, of course, that harks back to times long ago. And I'm here to tell you that we don't think this is a very good idea, and to tell you why. First of all, it's often promulgated as one of the benefits of Brexit. Now, Brexit does create lots of opportunities. For example, we could deregulate workers' rights. We could allow more contamination of rivers. The fact that something is possible doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing, or indeed that we have to do it. So in this case, I'm arguing that actually it would be a step backwards. One of the arguments used in favour of bringing back Imperial is that in some way this will be a celebration of the Platinum Jubilee. Now, I don't know what the Queen thinks about this, but I do know that the one thing in which she's been politically outspoken has been the importance of the Commonwealth. And bear in mind, this is a celebration not only for people in the UK, but a Commonwealth-wide celebration. The Queen is, after all, head of state of many of the members of the Commonwealth. And I think what British people don't often realise is that actually most of the Commonwealth has already gone metric. The UK stands out as an exception. So if we choose to move away from the metric standard, what we're doing is distancing ourselves from other members of the Commonwealth, as well, of course, as distancing ourselves from European countries and virtually all the rest of the world. That, I think, is going to be significantly damaging to the country, both in terms of image and also in terms of trade. What you'll often hear also is that metrication was imposed by the EU. Now, again, this is inaccurate in terms of history. The first decision to metricate was made in the 1860s, and the government finally decided to bring in definitive legislation in 1965 with the intention that by the 70s, metrication would be complete. As we all know, of course, that didn't happen for a whole variety of historic reasons. And we've been left in the meantime a limbo where some things are metric and others are not. That actually causes confusion. We have dual units. It really would be very desirable to standardize on a single set of units. The Magna Carta made it clear that there should be one unit in use throughout the kingdom, and that simply hasn't happened. Now, you can't really roll back on metrication for a variety of reasons. It is actually almost universally in use in this country, as in most of the rest of the world, in science and engineering and in medicine, to a very great extent in the kitchen, to a very great extent in sport, and I think almost exclusively in athletics. So in all those areas, people already think metric. It is anomalous that, for example, you go out running, you're running in meters, but then you get into your car and you're driving in miles. What is the sense of that? I think the other thing to say is that metrication, far from being externally imposed, is actually a British invention. The idea first came to an Oxford Don called John Wilkins at about the time of the Civil War. So it goes back a long way. It took a while for it to catch on in many parts of the world, but the advantages were so obvious that it's been universally accepted that metric is the way forward. A lot of people will tell you that Imperial would bring us into line with the USA. That's very far from being the case. First of all, the Americans do use metric in many areas. I mean, for example, in mine and medicine, it would be the norm. But on top of that, the American customary units are different from our imperial units. An American pint, for example, is 16 ounces against 20 ounces. So by using the same names for different units, we're actually causing confusion. Market traders sometimes tell you this is not a matter of insisting on imperial, it's a matter of choice. And so they say, well, they would quite like to use pricing in pounds and ounces, for example. Well, that's not illegal even now. The famous metric martyrs case was based on not advertising in imperial, but rather the use of unauthorized scales. And you can use dual units as much as you like in this country, it's not going to stop you. All that's required is that alongside the imperial measures, there should also be a metric indicator present and equally prominent. So for very good reasons, the professional associations, both of market traders and of grocers, have come out against this initiative by the government. They see nothing but costs because they're going to have to obtain whole new sets of scales, for example, if they're required to operate in imperial. The trading standards officers will have to do the same. It'll have a considerable cost to the economy, as well as, of course, as I've said, distancing ourselves from many of our nearest trading partners. So, in short, what I'm saying to you is don't even go there. We're very happy to defend the use of metric. It's convenient, it's easy, it's taught in schools and has been since the 1970s and before as the primary unit. Imperial is quite hard to learn. A lot of people who actually advocate the use of imperial don't know many of the conversion factors. They may know that there are 16 ounces to a pound and 14 pounds to a stone. But do they know how many stones there are in a ton, for example? I suspect not. So converting between one unit and another becomes impossible, even with the use of a calculator. So I wouldn't have thought that there are benefits for the individual or for the community at large. Now, I very much hope you agree with me on that. If you do, then please consider joining us, where the UK Metric Association website is www.ukma.org.uk. Thanks very much.